Okay. Welcome to another wonderful, well, really, it's not a wonderful day. Actually, I was just saying to Nina that I was complaining I've had a rough day, but it's going to be a wonderful day. Yes, it is, no matter what. I don't like to lie. I don't like to say, yeah, it's wonderful for the sake of wonderful, but it's going to be because the lovely Neena Perez is with us, and I know we're going to have a wonderful podcast. And with that said, welcome, Nina. Welcome.
I'm really glad to be here, Eli, and hopefully I can be a little bit of bright spot in this rough day.
Oh, there's no hope at all. It's going to be a spark. It is a spark. We don't talk negative on here whatsoever.
All right, let's
Yeah,
do it.
we go forward with spark and light and sunshine. As my grandfather would say, you know, when you smile, it's sunshine, and that's the way it's going to be.
I love that.
So, going forward, Nina, please tell us what you do in your business to help people be successful within their life.
Well, I work with purpose-driven women who are transitioning into entrepreneurship. They want to become coaches. So I help them harness their wisdom to wealth. And I help them with the mindset, branding, marketing, operational strategies, all that great stuff. So we literally take what they have already had in their life, their wisdom,
Hmm.
their skill sets, their God-given talents, all of that.
Hmm.
And we package that into a coaching business for them.
Okay, so you not only take it from the point of view you try to help them with their business, but you try to help them as their personality, trying to forge
Mhm.
forward, you know, try to make them more positive, more focused. So you do more than just helping them with the business, but you work
Yeah,
with them as a person, which encapsulates their personal life and their business. Is that correct?
that is correct. We work a lot on toxic shame,
Mm-hmm.
unforgiveness, self-talk, all that kind of stuff. Because I have master certification in neuro-linguistic programming,
Mm-hmm.
positive intelligence, and all that kind of stuff. So I've had to do a lot of work on myself. And I realized that even though I had some successes in my life, I
Uh-huh.
was never completely whole. I didn't feel whole. And
Mm.
so I went down that personal development hole that we all go down, that journey. And I realized that, you know what? I want the women that come to be holistically successful,
Mm-hmm.
not just successful in their business branch, but how about their inner work? How about transcending unwanted behaviors? How about finding your core values? All of that kind of stuff. And then my team comes in and helps them with marketing automation and funnel building and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Okay, so as you were saying, you didn't feel whole. What exactly does that mean when you said you didn't feel whole? Because you had already said that you had been successful quite a few
Yeah.
times. So what does that mean by not feeling whole?
It's hitting those goals and those markers that you put out for yourself. And then when you hit them, you're looking for the next thing because you
Mm,
didn't even enjoy that thing.
mm,
So, in my corporate career, I wanted to become a director, get six figures, blah, blah, blah. And I hit
mm,
them. And I remember feeling completely deflated. I just,
mm,
great. That's literally how I responded when I
yeah.
was, given the six figures in the role and all. And I'm like, okay, and it was like, wow, Neen, something's missing here. Like what is that? Because all of my life since I've had a lot of, tragedy and toxic stuff happen in my life, I was
Mm-hmm,
always focusing on the next thing to make me feel better, the
mm,
next thing to hit the goal, the next thing to be worthy, if you will.
mm,
Um and then I realized that it wasn't about that. It's about the journey, the self-discovery, how you feel along the way,
mm-hmm.
your pluses and minuses, the good and the bad, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I mean by that. Like it's time to connect to who you really are and what you want to build, and not what somebody told you that you
Mm,
have to have. Because I think that's the misconception is we think we have to have the big house, the 2.5 kids, the whatever society
mm,
tells you you have to have. Yeah.
mm. And you just got to find out what works for you. And I suppose
Yeah.
that's the journey you were taking. So instead of following what other people are saying or what you were told. You just thought something's not resonating with me. It's a bit like and also when you're going from one thing to another, as much as you were successful, then you try something else and you're successful. It's a bit like an addict. You know, they
Hmm.
may get over alcoholism, but then they take another addiction,
So
um,
true.
and it could be
Yeah.
TV, and they get over that, and then it's something else. But again, they're hopping from one thing to another, thinking that they're getting over things, but they're not. They're just swapping from something that they're getting stuck on, and they're not dealing with what really is the issue. They're just shifting the goalposts.
Exactly. Exactly. And I've been doing that since I was a child. I didn't realize until I'm 52, right?
Hmm.
And I started to realize all of the symptoms I have as I spoke to, like professionals and stuff, that I have ADHD and I have a little dyslexia. And I've throughout my life just learned how to manage that
Hmm.
and be very successful because I've taken my brain that's everywhere and had to really kind of like put things in lists,
Hmm.
make sure that I wrote things down when people told me them so I wouldn't forget, things
Mm.
like that. But I just thought it was me being forgetful until I took like all these assessments and realized, oh my gosh, I actually do have ADHD. I had no idea.
Mm.
I just
Mm.
thought I was a hyper energetic person with forgetfulness.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know I feel you because I had the same thing when I was younger. I still got a memory problem. I've got a memory like a fish.
Right.
I can tell you.
Five
Um,
second memory,
but
right?
I'm very good at masking. That's the thing. I had
Yeah,
problems, speaking also with my speech and etc. But I was very good at masking. You do, right? Because you just don't want to feel the shame. You see your
yeah.
other peers doing, they look from your point of view, they're thinking, oh, they're having a wonderful life. And do you
Mhm.
know the funny thing is, other people are probably thinking the same thing about you, and they're masking.
So
And
true.
and it's just like a ping pong ball all over the place happening. But from our point of view, it's really, really difficult, especially from the memory. And it's so frustrating, right? And you're intelligent, but
Right.
you think, why? Why can't you do those things? So you do mask, you do things where people don't notice. And
Exactly.
yeah, and but um, where we lack in one area, then obviously we focus in others to make sure we excel.
Mhm.
And hence our conversation. Remember, before we came on, it was talking about how we're able to have conversations. If we're doing a podcast or anything like that, we don't prepare. We just have a conversation, and that's a skill set. And why do we
Yeah.
have that skill set? Because we've had to. We never had the memory where we can look at a list, right? And then we can
Yes.
do the talking points back. We didn't have that. We had
Right.
to actually live on our feet. We had to watch a person's body language.
Yep.
We had to hear what they said before they were going to say, and then react to that. That is why we are good at having that conversation without having a book in front of us or having someone telling us what they're going to do up front. And we're confident in the bare fact that we can
Right.
just have that one-to-one conversation because we had to. We were
Right.
weak in
Right.
one thing, so we had to get stronger in the other.
Right.
So yeah, and
Right.
it's as simple as that. So when you now with hindsight, you realized what you were doing, you had the memory problem. And I suppose when you were very, very young, you didn't know you had the memory problem or the
Mhm.
dyslexia or any of those traits because you don't, because you just know what you know and this is who I am, right?
Right.
Not until you're in a position where you can compare to other people and you think, something's not right. But now you've got hindsight. How far did this start? Now you've got hindsight. Are we talking about you as in your teens, when you were 5, when you were 3?
What learning? You mean learning the
The
tools?
memory, the
Oh, the
memory issue you
memory.
had, and the dyslexia, the problems that you had with dyslexia, and the memory
Yeah.
situation. How far? I mean, if you've got a memory problem, you may have difficult remembering. But
Yes. No, I was actually in my 20s. I didn't realize it my whole life. I just built, like you said, you naturally just built these tools. You don't
Mhm.
realize it, you just do. And so when I was younger, I had a lot of trouble with school. I had a lot of trouble with school. Plus, I had a rough upbringing. So I had that on top of it. So it was emotional stuff on top of my learning stuff. And I remember my first grade teacher one day, she was trying to explain something to me and I couldn't get it. And she said, are you stupid? And I remember going, I'm like, I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid. She goes, well, you don't get it. Like, she really made fun of me, and it scarred me for a long
Did she make
time.
fun of you in front of everybody or just one to one?
Yeah, no, we were in class. We were in class, and she
Wow.
called me stupid. And I remember that hitting me in the chest so hard. I was 6 years
course.
old, and I was already dealing with, abuse issues and stuff like that. So that just added to it, right? So most of my life, I just said, oh, just so stupid. Like every time I didn't remember something or couldn't grasp a concept, I was like, I'm just stupid. It was that repeat horrible thing that she said to me that just kept being my thing. And I was a young mother. I had a kid at 15 years old. So I had to take care of my kid, go to high school, try to finish high school, barely finish that. And so I always noticed that I had problem grasping some certain ideas. Sitting in place was a hard thing for me. And for girls, they don't normally see that as much as they do. Like if a boy's overactive, oh, he's just a boy. Yes. Right. If a girl's overactive, she's just misbehaving.
Yeah.
Right. And so they, it was really difficult. Like a teacher would talk and about 10 minutes into the conversation, I'm checked out, like you're boring the hell out of me right now. I can't focus, and then I would do really well with testing. So I would study the night before. I was a crammer because I couldn't remember past 2-3 days. So I would study everything that night before and then kill my test. I was so good. But the second the test was over, don't ask me.
It went out the window.
Yeah.
Oh my
so bad.
God.
Yeah.
God, I wish my memory could even do that. I couldn't even do the last moment. I was like, duh. But I know that it's a situation you didn't find out until you was 20. But when you look back with hindsight, you know what that looks like now, the issues with your memory. You know what it looks like with the issues with your dyslexia. Can you just remember how far back you had the issue?
Of dyslexia and the memory?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it has to be like maybe first or second grade, because that's when I realized I couldn't grasp certain things like other kids. And I started to like feel a little bit like comparing myself with little kids, with the other kids. And I was very good at sports. I was very good with creating things and cooking and things like that, but I wasn't good at all with sitting down and doing math or sitting down and reading a book. Like those things were difficult for me. And I just, because of my first grade teacher and all the stuff going on in my life, I just thought I was stupid. But talking to you now in hindsight, that's when I started to notice that I needed to do something different. And sometimes for me, it was reading out loud. Like I could, like when the teachers would say, oh, open up to chapter 3 and read whatever, because I'm 52. So back in the day, that's what they did. And I would sit there and read and I couldn't retain it. So I would have to like mumble it under my words to try to hear what I was reading.
Okay.
So I would like read it and hear it at the same time. I remember doing that as a kid.
Yeah, because same here. I have to read out loud for me to retain it.
Yeah, me too.
There is something they do say in the brain. It affects the brain differently from when you're reading silently and reading out loud. And for me, reading out loud really works. And also it helps with my speech because I have different problems forming my words at certain points and blah, blah, blah. So that's what I do. Just if you miss it, if you don't do anything, you lose it, right? So I make sure that I, just like you do, you've got to read and it helps you along the way. So you actually suffered when you was younger. It was quite a difficult time. You had private things going on with the family that didn't help at all. I'm sure you had your peers. There was an issue, especially after the teacher said you were stupid. That didn't help, and that would have lost you a lot of respect, especially with your peers. And then I'm sure things got worse after that when it came to that. And did things get worse after the teacher did that with when it came to your peers, when it came to other people, other children, or was it much the muchness?
You know what? I never really I was always an easy connector with people. Like even when I
Mhm,
was a kid, I like people. That's just
mhm,
who I am, an extrovert, you know. So I don't remember it affecting it with my peers, although some peers were mean, you know,
mm,
but you have that in school. So I never connected the two. I just
mhm,
remember feeling completely embarrassed. And I
mm,
remember looking up because the kids who were around from where I was sitting were kind of looking at me too. And I was just like felt so embarrassed.
yeah.
But I don't remember them taking it on to be bullies or anything like
Okay,
that.
that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That's
don't
really
remember
good.
that. Yeah.
Okay, and your children, did
Mhm.
it pass on to your children, mum?
Yeah.
Was it your fault? Did you give it to your children, naughty
Right.
mummy?
Yes.
Oh, how could you,
Yeah,
mum?
I know. I could.
Oh, that's
And
just
actually,
terrible.
it's a blessing in a way because my youngest son has ADHD. I mean, is no way you cannot diagnose that he has ADHD. He absolutely does.
Yeah.
And when he was growing up, he's now 30. So when he was growing up, I kept telling the doctors he has ADHD. I didn't know I had it, but I
Mhm,
just knew he had it. And I'm
mhm,
like, can we please diagnose him or at least get him some help at school? He's
mhm,
struggling. No,
mhm,
no, no. He's
mhm,
just a boy. He's just a boy. He's just a boy. He's just a boy. And that happened for years until he
mm,
was about 14. And they finally said, yeah, I think he does. Oh, now you tell me. When the poor kid could barely make it through high school, you
yeah.
know? So it was really difficult. He actually dropped out of high school in his last year. He couldn't do it anymore. He was just done with it, you know? And so, but now he's a very successful music producer. So he
Mm,
uses his brain as a whole, his creativity is insane,
mm,
right? But he can't be put in a box, though. That's the thing. Like he can't have rules, he can't have
mm,
regulations, he can't like restrictions.
yeah,
And as a music producer, he gets to be inventive and
yeah.
do the thing, but he needs his wife to help him with the business aspect of his business because he can't do both,
And
you
that's
know?
perfect. But that's perfect. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't have to be neurodivergent to be in that situation. Even when
absolutely.
you're so-called normal, right? You still
Yeah.
need help. Strong, you're weak on certain things.
Yeah.
So it's good you have a partnership, be that in business, be that in, your marital.
Hmm.
And it's good that he's focusing on what's strong and he's got his partner to help what he's weak. Perfect. That's how
Yeah.
life could be, I think, regardless of where
Oh,
you're
yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad he's living the life, the true life that he should be living. Because there's many people out there that have gone out, got a qualification, and it makes them money, but it is what it is. They're making the cash, right? They don't really know what they want to do, even in
Right.
their 30s and 40s. But your son has actually said, I can't hack how they're trying to put me in a box. You
Right.
know, I need to be creative and I need to find something that's going to make me happy for the rest of my life. And he's gone out and
Yep.
there and done that. And and it wasn't easy for him. He didn't just
Oh,
leave
no.
school and
No.
he became a big time. He
No.
had to go through the
Took
trials and
years.
tribulations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So he had to go through the pain.
Yeah.
And most people that are successful, I actually would say all people that are successful, um, no matter how successful they are, they had to go through the pain anyway.
Yeah.
That's how you become good at what you do because you've got to
Yeah.
fail multiple times before you're good, right? That's life.
Yeah, yeah. I have another son, the one I had when I was 15. He's 36 now.
Hmm.
And he also has ADD. I don't think he has the H, but he
Hmm.
definitely has ADD. He's never been diagnosed as well because the doctors just wouldn't.
Hmm.
But I see him struggling with it. I see him with his memory. He'll be talking to you, Eli, and 2 seconds later having a full-on conversation with somebody standing next to
He
you.
zones out.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
zones out and he's
Yeah.
having a conversation with someone and he doesn't mean to ignore you. It's
Yeah.
just, and I was like that too. So I've had to teach myself to
Same
focus.
here. Same
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do that.
Otherwise, yeah, I'm
I
out.
still say, actually, that happened to me the other day. They said, Eli, I was speaking to you. Oh, was you? I'm so sorry. I was so focused on A, B, and C. And I thought, oh,
Yeah.
God, I've got to sort that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that too. My friends were like, Nina, I'm like, what? I was in the middle of a sentence. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, focus. Focus. I got you. Go ahead. Go. Go. And I'm like, and that's when I started to recognize, like,
Yeah.
really in my 20s, like hindsight with you thinking about it, I really started getting my tools together. But it
Yeah.
wasn't until like 35, 40 that somebody actually said, let's actually do an
Mhm.
assessment and see what's going on here. And sure
Yeah.
enough, I was like, bing, bing, all the flags, all the all the flags. I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. You know, when somebody can put a name to it or a word to it, and
Yeah.
you go, that makes so much sense. My brain just works differently. Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I am very careful with names, and that's why I like to use the word neurodivergent because
me
okay,
too.
they say it's
Yeah,
a political word, but rather than say ADHD or dyslexic or whatever, I don't like being put in a box
me
because
too.
usually that box has rule sets.
Yes.
I don't like rule sets. Otherwise, you get in like I did many years ago. What happens is when I found out I was dyslexic, many moons ago, when I went to college, as soon as I found out, I thought, oh, that's it. I can't do higher education. It's just not possible. That's what I mean. You know, and that's my fault. Other
Mhm,
people wouldn't do that. Other people would say, "Well,
mhm.
I'm dyslexic. I can go forward." And I have a friend who was, and she got a degree, and she's heavily dyslexic. Actually, she's more. She's worse than me, and yet she got her degree. She had a different mindset. So it comes down to mindset. But what I'm saying is that the box of dyslexia or ADHD can put you in a stage of this is a rule. This is the rest of your life. You cannot do this and you cannot do that. It's
That's
rubbish.
right.
You
That's
know,
right.
what it does is when you find out you have these traits, I think it's a good thing
Me
because it
too.
makes you hyper in certain traits, which are the good thing. And what's really difficult for you, you get other people to help you with that, like you
Mhm.
would in any business. When a business comes together, you know, and you're in your business, you don't do everything. You know, you'll have one person that does the secretarial work, the other person that does, you know, the finance, and so on. And it's the same thing in life. You know, you have a partnership and whatever. So if you see it from that point of view, you'll say, okay, I'm no good at that. I could work on that and make it better, but I am great at this. I'm super focused when it comes to that. Then
Yeah.
if you focus on that and just try to push that and make that as your superpower. And I don't like saying superpower, but people will understand that. But if
Yeah.
you make that as your superpower, why not go with that? That's something that you excel in, and you'll be happy with that. You're not going to sweat it. You're not going to think, "Oh, again, I can't do this," but I'm going to try. I'm going to try. Just go with what you're good at.
Yeah. 100%. And you know, when you keep saying you're gonna try to, it really means you're not gonna do it. So let's just be let's be honest. When you say I'm gonna try, that means you're not gonna do it. And the truth is that it starts to deflate you as a person and as an
It does.
entrepreneur, as a
Mm,
solopreneur. It really deflates you because you start to think you're not good enough or you can't, or you know, why can't you grasp that, but this person can. And you know, and I've realized that I don't have to do anything like anybody else does it. And I also have to accept myself for where I am.
mhm,
And I actually did exactly what you're talking about, Eli. I built the machine because
mm,
I knew that I cannot do all of the other aspects that my clients need. I ended up getting a whole team to do it. So now they do the marketing, the automation, the funnel
mhm,
building, all of that. Can I do
mm.
it? Yes. Do I want to? No.
No.
No. And so
Exactly.
and so the same thing happened with social media because I get down a rabbit hole very quickly. Like I'll be
Yeah.
working on a big project and something goes ding and I'm looking at it, before I know
Yeah.
it, I'm out. You know, so
Yeah.
I actually trained up a whole team for the last 18 months of VAs to actually do all of my VA work because
Mm,
otherwise I get lost in the sauce and
mm,
I'm damn good at what I do. And
mm,
so I don't want to be, you know, pulled away from what I'm excellent
mm,
at
mm.
into the weeds of something
Yeah.
that I can't do or don't want to
Well
do.
said. Well said.
Yeah.
It literally is that into the weeds.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Seriously.
And I'm the same way. I mean, I struggle with social media. I keep on trying to be consistent with social media. I'm very good with clients. You know,
Same.
I show them what they need to do on social media and all those other fun things. But with me, I'm an organic. I
Mhm,
am an
mhm.
organic, if you understand what that means. I
Yes.
like a one-to-one personal conversation. I like to be in a team and have that one-to-one. But this black and white, you know, texting backwards and forwards, to me, that just, ah, that's
Me
so frustrating. And
too.
you know, and when you sit there, actually, you know, you've written out a huge statement and it took you 5 minutes. You know what? You could have said that in 10 seconds to
Right.
somebody. It's like, why? And the thing
Oh my
is
God.
I'm quite straight, so I have to be careful how I write
Me too.
because
Me
because it's in
too.
black and white. It could be seen completely different what it meant. Because if you heard me say it, the tone would be different.
Yes.
My
Yes.
timing would be different, so it would be taken in a different way. But you know, but
You're
in
like
black
the
and
male version of me. I swear. It's
white, oh my
hilarious.
days, gets
It's
me
the
into
same thing.
trouble.
It gets me. Oh, I was just gonna say that. It gets me into trouble. They'll be
Trouble.
like, wow, that was so rude. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
no, not at all. Like, not at all. That's not what I meant, you know. Oh, it's so
No,
true.
totally.
And yeah, and the same thing with you with what you just said too about the back and forth and the texting and all. I get sometimes I just leave a voicemail because I can't even with the
Yeah.
texting. And sometimes I just get so frustrated. I'm like, I'm not going on for 2-3 weeks. I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, just like I don't want to look at it.
Well, I make it a rule. I mean, I don't mind texting as long as it's saying I'm going to be late. Or
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
mind changing the appointment? You know, if
Right.
it's going to be no more than about 20, 30 words, if it's longer than that, I'm picking up and I'm sending you a message. It
Right.
makes
Right.
no sense, you know, and oh, life is too short, you know, have a personal message. And I think people connect better too, you
Yeah.
know,
They sure
they
do.
connect
Yeah.
so much better. So I'm forever sending voice messages
Me
left, right,
too.
center. It's so much
Me
easier.
too. So
Um,
much easier.
yeah,
So
no
funny.
two ways about it. Right, okay, so let's talk about you again. So your children have this, and they've obviously come through the rabbit hole themselves. They've struggled quite heavily. You
Yeah.
knew that the issues that they were facing and they were likely to be ADHD. And the
Yeah.
reason why you knew, because you are yourself, right? You've seen the
Right.
traits yourself. And that frustration must have been really massive because your children were really struggling. You knew exactly what was
Mhm,
happening, but
mhm.
that push, trying to get them actually diagnosed, was really difficult. Why do you think that was so difficult?
You know,
Why did
back, I mean, you're talking about 30 years, right? 30, 35
mm,
years ago,
mm,
they started diagnosing, but they weren't as heavily as they are
mhm,
today, right?
mhm.
So, being in the medical field back then, I remember the book being very, very small when it came to neurodiversity. It was very, very small. And, they had a couple of medications back then and like Focalin and all that kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
And then now you look at the book, it's like this. There's like 1,000 diagnoses that
Yeah.
it's like ridiculous. Like every time somebody sneezes, oh, you must
Yeah.
have blank,
Yeah.
it's absolutely ridiculous. But
Totally.
I didn't want to diagnose them for them to be on medication. I wanted to diagnose them for them to have support
Mhm.
because you get the 501 or whatever it's called at school, whatever that thing is called here in the States. But you get extra people in the classroom, you get somebody
Okay.
who actually can study with your kid, like tutoring, you get
Okay.
all of those things
Mhm.
if your kid has some sort of diagnosis, but the doctors just refuse to do it.
Mm.
But I knew it. I knew it. Now, my oldest kid, the one that I think has ADD,
Mhm.
the reason I say think is because he's never been diagnosed, but I could see my son's, he has all the symptoms, right?
Mm.
But he's very, very highly intelligent
Mhm.
and he loves learning and his memory is long. Okay.
Really?
So yeah, he can retain so much, right?
I'm jealous.
But he's me too. Me too. I'm like, where'd you get that from? That must be from your father, dang
Share,
it.
please. Share, please.
Yeah, he's amazing with that. Like we went
Great.
somewhere, he looked at my card. I was writing my credit card down on something. And then the next time we went there, he's like, "Oh, mom, your card number is," and I'm like, whoa, whoa. First of all, get my card number out of your head. That's
Mhm.
first of all. No credit card
Mhm.
numbers in your head, please. And secondly, don't look at my stuff. But like, I can't believe he does that because at the same time, he's easily distracted,
Yes.
right? So he could be talking to you on the phone, and as he's talking to you, he's having a full-on conversation. I'm like, Ernie, I'm still on the phone. Oh, yeah, yeah, mom, sorry. But he'll do that all day long, all the time.
Ah.
So it's like, okay. So I know they have it. It was super challenging. And it was as a parent, and back then I didn't know like the skill sets. I didn't know what to do to help them. We just tried to figure this out together. I
Okay.
went through like old books back in the day that were like, get them off of gluten, get them off of these different like sugar, get them off of
Uh-huh.
that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I did try that. And I will tell you that after 2 months, they did do better. I'm not gonna lie,
Mm. And the
but
sugar,
then
especially the sugar.
Yeah,
The sugar is a big
exactly.
problem because the sugars are poison, and
Oh yeah,
it does a lot of damage to our kids. So the
it
sugar is
does.
creating a lot of hassle. Mm,
It really has. And we're not going to get all political in here, but I also feel like we have to look at something in the medical and in our food as to why so many kids now have so many of these diagnoses,
mm,
right? And so, back then, I mean, like I said, I just went along with what my doctor said. I knew no better, you know.
mm,
Now with being a grandmother, now I'm like looking at my kids going, okay, so now I want you to think about different tools, different ways to teach them, different
mhm,
modalities, different
yeah.
strategies.
Mhm,
Not every kid can sit on a desk for
mhm,
8 hours listening to a boring teacher,
mhm,
and that doesn't mean something's wrong with them. It just means they need to be taught differently,
yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Mm. And that's great. I mean, with the experience that you had with your kids, that puts you in especially with yourself too, that puts you in a position to obviously communicate with your clients more efficiently too,
Mhm.
because I'm sure your clients have certain issues.
Mhm.
So, and also with your skill set of being able to have that conversation, because you've had to, right? You've had to learn
Right.
to have that conversation. And this is the good thing with having what we have. I always saw it from a negative point of view until the last 2 years. I had to make some changes. And then I realized, Eli, actually, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just different. And different is always good. I've always liked being different. Um, but I've only accepted being different. There's a difference between
Yeah.
liking and accepting who you
Yes.
are. And I only accepted about 2 years ago when I decided to make the changes I needed to make because I wasn't happy with certain things about me. And I think that's the most important thing is accepting who you are.
Yep.
And if you don't like who you are, then change that.
Change it. Yes.
Um,
So good.
if you accept who you are and you like who you are, then hey, you're off to the races. But the point is, it's the acceptance. Because if you don't accept you, then you're not in the position that other people can accept you because you're always masking 24/7.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if you're masking and as acting as somebody else, then obviously the people in your life are actually interacting with somebody else and not you. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yes. Hell yeah, that makes sense.
So,
I love
so
that.
yeah. So, um, it's once you accept yourself, so many things become clear, and then you're not a people's pleaser,
Yep.
which
Yep.
powerful, which is important too, because you get a lot of us that are people's pleaser because you do,
Yeah.
because you feel insecure, right? You got, you feel woe is me because I'm broken. And that's another thing I keep on hearing people say, especially on social media. Oh, I'm fed up. As soon as I was diagnosed and realized I was broken, and I had to have that conversation with someone about a week ago. And when I saw that listed, I said, "You're not broken. You're just different. You're lucky. You was diagnosed with ADHD. You're quite lucky. Do you know how many people are leaders and they're dyslexic and ADHD compared to people that aren't?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
far higher than if you don't have it. So if you're diagnosed with ADHD and you accept who you are and your strengths, you actually got a bigger chance in owning your own business, making it successful, and going to the top.
That's right. That's right. And what's very interesting about what you just said too is, I speak to a lot of people on my podcast. I have like almost 500 episodes recorded at this point.
Mm-hmm,
And so many of those leaders now, because I think it's more freeing now, people are
hmm
more accepting of it now and
hmm
accepting of themselves.
hmm
How many of them are? You're absolutely right, Eli. How many of them are neurodivergent, right?
hmm
Because they've done what we talked about. They've gotten people that are good at this, hired them for that. Good at this, hired them for that.
hmm
And they're like the brains of the operation, right?
hmm hmm
And it's been so interesting and beautiful to see because it makes people realize you're right, you're not broken. I say maybe you're bent a little, but you're not broken, So
Well, be careful when someone says that you're bent. Oh, what do
right.
you mean by
Yeah.
that? Really? Or what do you mean?
Exactly. So I really think that
Uh,
I think me and you, Eli, are living in a great place in the world
mm,
because we are more accepting. We are more direct,
mhm,
right? We can be a little bit scatterbrained, but find other people to do certain things now.
mm,
Back when it wasn't like that. You went to your corporate job, you worked your job till you were 40, you died. I
mm,
mean, that's what you did, right?
mm, mhm,
And now I think there's more understanding about this. And when you are neurodivergent, because you think differently, you see things differently, which is a beautiful thing.
mm,
So you
mm.
see your business differently. You see relationships differently. You
That's
see
right.
just things differently, you know?
And also, you have great empathy at the same
Yeah,
time. And the reason why you have great empathy for other people is because you struggled in such a
yes.
way. You you don't try to judge anybody
Mhm.
because you've seen things in a certain lens when you were growing up and how difficult it was for you. You know what it
Right,
was like by hiding in the corner but still trying to achieve. You then have a realization that life can be tough and people do the best they can. And
right.
yes, I made mistakes by doing A, B, and C. So that gives you the empathy to understand it from other people's point of view
Yep.
because you've had to be making your own mistakes and masking and this and that and the other. So that gives you the foresight and the eyesight to have that empathy, to not judge, to sit on the fence.
Mhm.
Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Because you
Oh, yeah.
know what it can be like. But that's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, I see it like that too. And I also, for those who are listening and you do struggle or you feel like you're struggling, give yourself some grace too and give
Mhm.
yourself some time because one of the things that I used to beat myself up all the time about, Eli, was the fact that I would start something and wouldn't finish, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm moving on to the next thing, moving on to the third and fourth,
My hand is
right?
up. My hand is up.
To the third and fourth thing. And so the other day I was driving and I found myself beating myself up a little bit. And I'm like, you didn't finish that project, blah, blah, blah. Why haven't you finished? And this is what you do all the time, Neena. And this is what I was going through in the car. And then I said, okay, stop, pause.
Mhm.
Is it true that you finished nothing? And it's not true, Eli. I've finished high school. I've finished college. I have finished, my certifications. I finished a lot of things in my life. So it's not
Mhm.
true that I can't
Mhm.
finish things. I'm like, you need to just refocus, girl. Just find out what it is that you want to do and refocus. Write it
Mhm.
down on the list. That's what works for you. Make sure that you follow ABC to get that list done and
Mhm.
stop beating yourself up that you didn't finish this thing. Okay, you
Mhm.
didn't. That's the truth. Now let's do something about that. And I think for many years I didn't look at it that way. I just thought I wasn't good enough. I wasn't smart enough. I couldn't
Mhm.
finish anything. You
Totally.
know,
I
yeah,
get that. I
yeah.
get that. No, and I felt exactly the same way. And now we're getting into a situation we're blooming because we
Mhm.
realize our power and our strength.
Yes.
So, when did you decide to run the type of business that you wanted to run? All right, because you're trying to help people in a 360-degree type of way. You're not
Mhm.
just doing it for the business, you're doing it more than that.
Mhm.
So what flipped the coin for you when you decided you made a conscious decision
Mhm.
to help people in more ways than one?
That's a great question. It started in when I wrote my autobiography, because when I wrote my autobiography and I saw all the stuff I've been through in my life and how
Mhm,
I've overcome it, I realized that my story doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to others. And what I mean by that is my story is to help the next person. Right.
mhm,
So I started with neurolinguistic programming and positive intelligence and helping people break free from those limiting beliefs and things in their life.
mhm.
But then what happened was I invested a lot of money in coaching.
Okay.
And I remember this coach I had, she was amazing when I was with her and all. And then the day after our contract ended, I had a question about a process that I was doing, and
Mhm.
I never heard back from her again. So the contract ended, so did our relationship, apparently. Right.
Okay. Mhm,
And for months, I was trying to find this answer to this problem that I had.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I realized, Eli, that's crap. Like somebody's giving you 25, $30,000. The least you can do is answer a question.
Yeah.
you know? So I decided, you know what? I'm not going to let anybody else go through this. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to build my own machine. If I can't find a machine out there that will do it for me, then I'm going to build my own damn machine and do it myself. So
Mm.
that's what I did. And I made a very conscious decision to not leave anybody behind. And so I have a whole online academy that I've built where the
Okay.
people can go there and watch videos on toxic shame and forgiveness and learn behaviors and all that kind of stuff. I spent hours and hours and months on that. And
Mm.
then when they come to me, we start then working on the stuff that's stopping them. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to build the machine that helps them now stay with them to help them build out their business, because I will not be that person that the day after our contract, I don't know you.
Mm.
I can't be that person. I can't
Mhm.
be that person because I'm not in it for you to sign another contract to pay me more money.
Yeah.
I'm in it to see you actually put out in the world what you say you want to
Mm.
do.
Mm.
You
That's
know,
people. Mm.
that I'm just a servant leader, but I've always been that way. You
Mm.
know, I'm a Christian, and
Mm.
my belief system is to serve others.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so that's what I do. And the money will come, the blessings come, because I feel like the more you put out in the world and the good that you put out will come back to you. I just
Mm.
believe that, you
No,
know?
totally right. No, that resonates with me, and that's what I forever do. The most important thing is for me to help as many people as possible
Yeah,
without thinking about monetary. And the thing is, I believe life, especially even in business, when you're dealing with money, you're charging. Before you even think about that, you have to think of the currency of trust. The only
yes,
reason why anybody gives you the time of day or money and all those other wonderful things is trust.
that's right.
So you might as well focus on being prevalent with the person you're engaging with, how you can help them, forget
Right.
the money and all those other things, because you're never going to get those things unless they feel like they resonate and trust with you. It's as simple as that. So
100%.
I, there's money, yes, but for me, I deal with the currency of trust.
I
And
do too.
yeah.
I do too. I think it's important. I think it's vital. That's why the women who come to me, they don't have like large social media followings or anything like that. And I say, you know what? Let's start building your portfolio of trust.
Hmm.
And they're like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, I just need you to put out some videos out there talking about your expertise, put out some pictures out there talking about your expertise, put out some quotes. And they're like, oh, but only one person liked it. Good. One person that you didn't have before liked it. Beautiful. The
Hmm.
whole point is the more you have out there, people can research you, they can find you.
Mm.
And then they build a trust by learning how you speak with someone,
Mm.
learning their expertise, learning what you said. It doesn't
Mm.
matter if you have a million followers or not. It's irrelevant. It's
Mm.
irrelevant because
Mm.
out of those million followers, maybe they have an active community, maybe they don't.
Mm.
So I feel like build a portfolio of trust, put your stuff out there, because unfortunately we do live in an online world
Yeah.
and people have to find you.
Yeah.
um Networking places, network
Mm.
with people. Like
Mm.
you said, you like that energy of being around people. Me too.
Mm.
Right. So start building that trust that way. Stop thinking about, oh, how many numbers did I get? How many downloads did I get?
Mm.
Who looked at my video today? Who cares? Who
Mm.
cares?
Mm.
you know and so sometimes the women will be like, well, only 10 people liked it. I said, have you ever thrown a party at your house for 10 people? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, was it a lot of people? And they're like, well, yeah, I mean, it was work. About I said, exactly. So think about the 10 people who viewed your post, your video, your podcast, as if they were coming over your home.
Mm.
It's still valuable. People
Mm.
are valuable. 1, 10, a million, it doesn't matter. Doesn't
Mm.
matter.
That's true. That's why I decided to start networking, because I was always a recluse. It was always a situation where I always got on with people one to one, but I
Hmm.
didn't really put myself out there, especially online. And that's why I'm really glad I did the podcast. The most important thing is it helps so many people,
Yeah.
but also it helps me get over my recluse stage of life, because I thought this is ridiculous, because I can easily, get on with people one to one and whatever else, but I don't want to show my face. I've got an ugly face. I've got an ugly voice, and all these things I was saying to myself, I had to get over.
Lies.
Exactly, I had to get over it. It took me a year and a half to get over that ugly face and ugly voice syndrome. It took me a year and a half to about 2 years. And I'm 90% there now, and I'm looking back thinking, oh my God, Eli, you were absolutely crazy. Why did you have
Right.
such limiting beliefs? But we all have to go through
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
journey, right? It doesn't happen overnight, and some people take longer than others. I took longer than others, but better later than never. That's the
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing. So, in your business, you decided to help people and do it in your way because you thought, I can do it and I can definitely do it better. You wanted to help as many people as possible. And obviously, you got your first client. How did that feel, especially when you helped that client for the first time and you did it in the way you wanted to do it, where you had your own power to do so?
Mm-hmm. It felt so good. And it felt really good to do it the way I wanted to do
Mm,
it because I had so many coaches telling me different ways to do it.
that's right. Yeah.
And it started to become confusing and it wasn't aligning with who I was. I can feel it because I can feel the tension
Hmm.
of, trying to do something, trying and trying and trying and trying. And it felt like work. And I felt like, okay, so I just started my entrepreneurial role, but I'm really an employee because it feels like work, you
Mm,
know? And it wasn't until I said, I don't care what anybody says anymore. I know what I have. I know my skill sets. I know what I can do. So what I do is I put it on I have a long spreadsheet I call the foundations, and I did it for myself as well, where I
hmm.
put in all of my skills, my talents, my God-given gifts, everything out in a spreadsheet. And I start to look at it and say, oh, I can actually do this and this. I can actually put this together, you know? And when I started doing that, I started realizing I'm going to build my own wheel. So when I did that is when the clients came. That's
Mm,
exactly when they came because I wasn't
mm,
hitting this constant wall. I actually was just me. And if you like me, you like me. And if you don't, you don't. And I am irrelevant of that. I don't care. I used to care because I was a people pleaser.
mhm,
And I still want people to like me. Of course, I think we all want that.
mhm,
But if you don't like me, I don't lose sleep over it.
mm,
I used to, but not anymore. And I realize it's because I can't be what everybody wants me to be. And when you try to be everything to everybody, right? You're
mhm,
nothing to nobody, like that saying says.
mm,
And I decided that first feeling was amazing. And then the second was amazing. And the third was amazing, and so on and so forth. And every time I get someone to sign on, it's amazing because I realize I have value and they see the value and want that. So it's a
of
great
course.
feeling.
So, in your business, how do you help people? Do you do it from a one-to-one group or corporate or all of the above?
I do a hybrid model. So I do a group and one-on-one, meaning they're
Hmm.
in I keep my groups very small on purpose. So my groups are no more than 10 women.
Okay.
And but and we meet every other week as a group where we do a
Hmm.
group lesson, whatever. But they
Hmm.
have access to me for one-on-ones whenever they want.
Okay.
So they have an open calendar that they can use and
Hmm.
book a time with me every week if they want to. So I do a hybrid. And then they also have access to me daily on WhatsApp or Voxer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that on purpose because I realized that, we might have this group thing going on, but each woman has a different business
Uh-huh.
concept.
Uh-huh.
So that doesn't always serve them. They need to be able to talk through things with me.
Uh-huh.
Like I have some women right now doing webinars. I have other women doing, accounting. I have other women doing sports. Like they're all
Hmm.
doing different things.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, that's why I keep the group small because if I had 50, 60, 70 women
Yeah,
like I used
you
to
can
back in the
serve that.
day,
Yeah,
nah,
yeah.
can't
No,
do
you
that.
couldn't do that. You couldn't do it the way you wanted to do it. So
Exactly.
you've done it the way that resonates with you and helps your
Exactly.
clients in the way. And again, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like
Exactly.
you're hanging out, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love it. Yes, it's
I
exactly
know.
what it feels like. Yeah.
Well, listen, unfortunately, I'll have to put a line in the sand. I could speak to you forever, but I'm limited with time, unfortunately. Oh, listeners, has it not been a wonderful? Did I not tell you it was going to be a good conversation? Did I not tell you I was right? But I've run out of time. It is what it is. So, Nina, how can people get in touch with you if they need your help and your support?
Yeah, you can find me anywhere. Nina Perez is spelled Neena Perez. And you can find me literally anywhere, ninaperez.com. But I live everywhere. And my podcast is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. So if you look for
Mhm.
either one, you will find me. I am
Mm.
everywhere. I'm
And I'm
Googleable.
Oh, definitely. I'm not going to listen to the podcast. If she's a bit like Eli, oh God, we're in trouble. And we seem to be very similar. So I'm going to
Yeah.
take a sniff at a podcast. So pronounce your podcast again so people don't
Yeah.
mistaken it. Go on, tell them.
It's straight talk, no sugar added.
There you go. And you know that's going to be a stunning podcast. You know that is. So you just make sure you go over there, have a listen, and you'll be stuck over there, I'm sure. Nina, thank you so much for your time. I
Thank
am
you for having
blessed
me.
that you gave the time to us, and this was most wonderful podcast. I would probably like to have another one with you again. That would be really nice, but we'll see.
Yeah, I
Um,
would love that. Thank you for having me. Seriously, Eli, this was amazing. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
I'm glad. And listeners, as you can hear, she's gone through a long and arduous journey. Being successful as she is because she's gone through that journey, and it hasn't been easy. She's gone through the journey with her children. She understands when it comes to communicating what the person needs, what the client needs, and the reason being because she's an amazing communicator. Why? Because of this beautiful journey she's gone through. So if she resonates with you, then hey, you've got nothing to lose but time itself. And with that said, thank you, Nina. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And listeners, we will speak again, and subscribe, like, and all those other wonderful things. And we will see you soon. And sayonara. Done.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.